my microphone, and now I'm hearing myself in a delay, so I will close this window. Oh, could you say something, Adam, though?
Testing.
Oh, could you say something, Adam, though?
Testing.
There we go. You're in the delay too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. So hello, internet. This is very ad hoc and very reality. We are going to build from scratch a very silly little application to demonstrate certain things. Oh yeah, let's do the IntelliJ link as well. And maybe that's not secure, but I don't think anyone will join in time. Also, and then I'll have to. Oh my God! Hey Nathan Knox. Yeah, Nat knows you. All right, so we're going to build a very an incredibly meta app. I will open up IntelliJ first, as well in the background, while I explain this. So Adam and I do symposiums every Friday, and there's a bit of yeah. And there's a bit of some background preparation. Obviously, we got to know what we're going to talk about and stuff like that. But also, we need to schedule a meetup, put the meetup there on the internet, publish it, give it a name and a description, all that stuff. And we need to add a Zoom link. Obviously, Zoom's a separate app, and we need to make a webinar. And our delightful COO has permission to make webinars, and so she sends us a link, or she'll add it to the meetup event herself. Anyway, there's a bit of coordination. We got to coordinate sometimes. You see when our events are posted. Sometimes we're a little busier and fall out of sync there. So what we're going to do is build a very silly app that's going to allow us to sort of automate this process. I just looked through the Meetup API. I have two tabs open. There's a create event API for Meetup, and there is a create webinar API for Zoom. Using these together, we can get as fancy as we want. But this is sort of the minimal core of required functionality, and then we could make a little CRUD app of events ahead of time, and then schedule them for publishing at whatever the optimal hours for all the internet traffic. So you can come, and all 30 of you can come. Cat's drinking from the sink. Everything is good. So to get started with a new application, which is what we're doing, there's nothing written, nothing up our sleeves. I click into IntelliJ. Adam probably clicks into VS Code. And I click on the new project button. And if you have the ZIO plugin that's maintained by Eagle, HMM copy, as you may know him from his internet alias, the ZIO plugin will have a drinking a lot of water out of the sink, huh? Good job. You get the ZIO project, which is just creates a blank SPT project that has the newest version of ZIO. So semi-convenient. We'll start with that. So you give it a title. I will call it. I've already have an app called ZDup already. I'm running out of pun names, so I'll just call it Symposium Create Symposium Tool. Yes, or even more contrived, Zimpository. I definitely don't have anything called Zimpository. And then we can select to include ZIO test, which is nice, and also to create ourselves a dummy application. So I will do that. Okay. And then, most importantly, I'm going to send Adam a link over here. If you have code with me, you can click on these little happy people. And I will enable access and copy an invitation link. Allow Adam to edit my files. Okay. And then I will go to be right back mode so that no one can see all the secret stuff I'm doing behind the scenes, which will involve sending Adam a link. And that is done. Did you get it, Adam?
I got it.
Awesome.
Starting up the kernel right now.
Cool. Great. So soon Adam will be able to join me, and then we can both try to architect and code this very simple app from scratch. I mean, it's not terribly simple. It's going to involve a certain number of things that you see on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully we can sort of walk through and exemplify whatever we believe to be best practices in ZIO architecture for services, or just stumble around. Okay, dokie. Hello, nice. So Adam is here. I will make my text comically huge, and then we can sort of talk through the design of this app. So, yeah, at a very high level, we have two things that we're concerned with. Oh, let me also do this business. So I get this little create Scala format conf file recommendation. So I'm going to do that because I like Scala conf, Scala format, and then I have myself somewhere. Well, I know what I think it's version 275. I do presets.align, or is it align.preset? I think it's align.preset equals most, and max column equals 120. I think that's.
I'll just copy the one from ZIO.
I should do that because actually ZIO is better than mine, and so
Yeah.
I should probably do that. I will do that in the background. Where's ZIO? ZIO.
Yeah. The other thing we could use along the lines of this, I guess it's a little more than what the IntelliJ one does, is like the Iterate template. Like we've got the one for like an actual like ZIO project, but it could be nice to have something for like a ZIO application that kind of does some of that stuff for you.
Oh yeah, like with our sort of bespoke config formats. One sec, let me check because my kitty's coughing. I just want to make sure she's okay. One sec.
Yeah,
she was drinking water out of the sink, and let me be right back.
Yeah.
All's okay. How do I do this? Okay. Sorry, she's fine. She drank some water out of the sink again, as she usually does, but she is being tended to, and is just coughing. She's fine. But I will update, and if I have to run, I will run. But I think everything's okay. Can you hear me, Adam?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Oh, good. So yeah, I might, for now, since we don't have that getter template, let me actually go and grab ZIOs because I do like. Let's just. Ooh, I have that Scala format. Oh no. I wonder where our Scala format. A worm emergency. Indeed. Yeah, it was worm. She loves every time just drinking water out of the sink or just licking the bottom of the sink. Just who knows? If there's any small pile of water, she will do that instead of her many bowls around the house. So let's see, Scala format. There we go. Oh, this looks nice. Lovely. Okay. I think that's all I need to steal from ZIO at this moment. But that's a good thing to start with. And 275, yeah, preset. Oh yeah, multi-line. There's a lot of nice little subtle things that I do. Like, oh yeah, and it removes braces. Oh, and it even rewrites certain tokens. Ooh. To prevent people from using Unicode.
Yeah, well, there's something at the very end you want to get rid of, I think, because there's, I think, a little. Yeah, we can get rid of this.
Those exclude filters, yeah. That seems ZIO specific.
Okay, I think this looks good.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, in order to just start with just some terms, right? We have Meetup, we have webinar, we have this concept. Sorry, we have Zoom webinars, we have Meetup events, I believe they're called, and we want our domain are these symposia, and I will add that to the dictionary on my IntelliJ, and then basically what we want to do is have some description of the symposia that'll have like a title and perhaps a date. I'm guessing we want to schedule these, and we would like it to automatically, ideally, create a meetup event, as well as Pierre Ricadat, aka
Oh, yes.
Ghost Dog mentioned. Did you get his notification there?
Yeah, Ghost Dog in the house.
Yeah, he wants to do a session where we turn the API into a GraphQL API using I'm probably Sangria, one of the tried and true. I'm just kidding. Using his library Caliban, which is really good.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
That would be an honor. So yeah, we probably have these symposia that'll have titles and dates and really that's it, and a description. And instead of having to sort of copy and use Meetup's awkward API description, or UI, not API, every time, we can just sort of automate this and have the Zoom webinar get created. So like in terms of an algorithm or steps, we want to, well, definitely create a webinar link for each symposia. We need to be able to add the webinar link to a meetup event, create a meetup event, Maybe we could first create the webinar link, and then as we create the meetup event, I looked and there's a field for these types of external links. So create meetup event as well. It's another thing, and then sort of publish the event. Maybe that can be a separate step, so we can publish it at the ideal time. And one can imagine other extensions like post event description to Twitter, other things, right? We can sort of make a little mini marketing hub for these and other things. But for now, sort of the thing that we sort of maybe drop the ball on sometimes is creating the webinar and the meetup event on time. So that's a good place to start. And then we can just have that sort of done automatically as long as we've sort of, I'm thinking maybe we can create a symposia description. We can either do it ad hoc, maybe that's the first way to do it, just so imperatively we want to say, hey, create this on this date, go do it now, give me this. But eventually one might imagine that we can ahead of time sort of queue up symposiums with descriptions, set their date, and they'll all sort of just set themselves up automatically or publish themselves on time. Not really sure. But yeah, so Adam, where do you, how would you go about breaking this down? It's kind of like a high level overview of some of the plan, but obviously it can change. And what are your thoughts on this very miniature architecture and mini app? And yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I guess the first thing I'm thinking about is the module pattern and kind of what the different layers would be. Both, I guess, from an architectural perspective, just a more conceptual sense of like what are the different modules in the architecture here, but probably also ultimately translated to services and C layers. And so it feels like maybe we have kind of, at least in our first version, like 3 different services here. We've got like a Meetup service that knows how to kind of communicate with Meetup using its protocol and just exposes us with a very simple API that has a couple of methods of like basically, I think, create webinar that gives us something back.
That would be for like the Zoom service, I think, would have the webinar.
Oh, sorry. Great event versus yeah, excuse me. So yeah, I think the Meetup service would let us create an event. And then we have the Zoom service that creates the webinar. And then I think we'd have a third it could just be the main of our app, but I think it might be a little bit more extensible if we then had like a Symposia service that would ultimately depend, at least its live implementation, on the Meetup service and the Zoom service. And we would just kind of give that the information we wanted for this thing, and then it would handle, at least as we currently architected, it would handle calling the Meetup service and then handle calling the Zoom service. But that would also kind of abstract out a little bit of like if we ended up wanting to like have it also depend on like a MailChimp service that like emails everyone who's like signed up to our list to tell them that, hey, here's the latest event, here's where it is, then that would all be handled by the Symposium service, and we could just kind of use that, and that would kind of be the front end for all of that.
Yeah, and kind of sort of going off so something I learned recently, which is quite obvious, is that layers are based on the onion architecture, and layers as in layer of onion, which went over my head. I mean, it made sense as a generic term for module. I thought it was just like reaching into the thesaurus and grabbing out something like module or service layer. But it makes a lot of sense. And so the idea of that is that, yeah, Symposium is kind of, for now, our core. This is the high level center of the onion, our business domain. And this would then rely on outer layers of the onion, which would be Zoom and Meetup, and these are probably going to be sort of on the boundary. Maybe we could put like an HTTP service or something in between it, but basically Zoom and Meetup are the boundary of this. And sort of it was recently, I think John recently made a recommendation, which I like, and it would be cool to try, of just for the boundary services, have these as traits, which then you can have a test implementation of and a live implementation of, which would make sense. We don't want to, like, when we test the Zoom service, maybe we do want to test the live implementation against a real API, but do that in a controlled manner and not every time we run our tests, and certainly not when we're testing Symposium. But maybe sort of as a we can write the cool thing about Z layers is we could see if we write a test for like the Zoom service or the Meetup services, we can have a whole test suite for them, and by swapping in a different layer, we can either run it against a test implementation or swap in the live implementation. And so it's kind of nice. I've done this in the past. Is have a test for some third-party API, and only every once in a while swap in the live implementation when you want to sort of sanity check yourself. Otherwise, when you're doing all your other tests, use the test implementation so you don't blow up all of your API limits. So yeah, this would be great. We could just, I guess, start with one of these. I mean, yeah. Do you have a preference? I guess it's kind of arbitrary, and I like to shift around. But where you like to start, if it is sort of this multi-tiered architecture, do you like to start at the high level and code to stubs of the lower levels, or sort of just fully flesh out maybe one of these lower boundary services?
Yeah, I find it's really nice to flesh out the stubs of these because it kind of forces you to think a little bit more concretely about how they're related. And I mean, I think this one is going to be relatively straightforward, but even for much more complex systems, I find it can be a really good forcing function because otherwise, when you have things that are like really complex with distributed systems and things like that, it's kind of easy to like have a English conversation where you're like, okay, this is going to send this to this will send some confirmation back. But then like when you kind of really have to at least do the interface, you're kind of forced to think about like, well, is there a failure channel here? If there's a failure channel, like how would that failure be handled? Like what information is transmitted here? Is this really enough information? So, and then I think also when you're doing kind of larger projects, that's really nice because if you kind of do this and get it right, then each of these are things that like a separate team can go and do. And as long as you have those interfaces right, they can really be pretty independent of each other. So I like that to start with.
Okay, yeah, totally. So, yeah, I very much like that. I love, I mean, and with a language like Scala, you have types. You can really fill in a lot of information at the type level that'll help you inform your design without even worrying about the actual boring implementation stuff. It's kind of hard to do in other languages. So you can kind of have some basic correctness to your sketch, kind of like drawing in the wireframes when you're doodling, making a really nice sort of high quality sketch before you apply the paints and charcoals or whatever you're doing, the watercolors. So yeah. So I mean, with that being said, like which should force? I mean, we need to force both against each other to discover things. But where do you want to start first? Like just in this Create Symposium, or with a?
Well, I wonder maybe we should start with like the Meetup service because like I mean conceptually the Create Symposium is going to like take some information about like the title and the description and the date, and I think that's ultimately going to return probably, at least as we sketch it out now, probably a unit of like the kind of result of this is just we successfully did these things for their
a ZIO of unit.
A ZIO of unit, exactly. So I mean, we could start by I guess sketching that in a little bit. So one of the things we always want is for our interfaces, we don't want them to depend on anything in the environment. Sometimes that's like an anti-pattern that I've seen. I mean, some very smart people unintentionally introduce that. But you want to embody all the dependencies in the creation of this service versus the environment type. So this would probably be any. We haven't really sketched out the error type yet. I mean, clearly, if we're like doing this across these networks, there are going to be a bunch of different possibilities for failure. Maybe as in just a very initial sketch, we throw in throwable here, and then we think about refining that to some kind of more domain-specific error type.
Yeah, I often start with just UIO or throwable, depending on how confident I am, and then UIO or task, and then sort of refine from there. So that sounds great. Cool.
And then I guess I'm thinking, so that's going to be the output, and then the input's going to could probably be this like title, description, date. But what we're going to need is going to be a little bit, I think, driven by like exactly what is like this meetup service need here.
Yep. So now maybe it's time to go to that.
Good opportunity to kind of look at the API and try to.
Yeah. We need to sort of be symbiotically informed, right? That each of these are going to push against the other and push back. There's a dialectic between the designs of which we'll have to, which comes up, which is very interesting. So there's a lot of shifting, and it's nice to keep things loose and unimplemented. Also, I saw that Ash could catch us today. So hi, Ash, if you're here.
Yeah, hey.
That's awesome. And if you want to join in, Ash, just feel free.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Send you a link. If you want to pair, we could push IntelliJ to its limits. Just whatever, reach out. Cool. So let's So I'm guessing for the Meetup service, and I can just keep it all like obviously eventually we're going to break this into different files, but as we're just sketching it out, it's super nice just to be able to not look anywhere and just have it all here. So I'm guessing we're going to need some kind of like maybe we don't even need a meetup. We could just, it depends. We could encode it in a case class or just take properties. I'm not sure. Let's just make a case class for now. And so this would definitely have a title. We can sort of we could look at the Meetup API, but I know at least it needs a title, a description. It needs and we need this URL, right? That we want. So this would be our webinar link. Meetup URL. And we can kind of hard code it to our domain. We don't care about perfectly modeling Meetup's domain. We care about Meetup as far as it fulfills our needs. Like we're not going to worry about the fact that there are in-person meetups and there are all these other settings. Like we just don't really particularly care because Symposium probably won't be in person for a while, if ever. Maybe one day. So this is probably going to take maybe I should call this an event. And this can go in here. This would be an event. And this is going to return something. Not entirely sure what yet. Some kind of result payload, posted event. I don't know. Maybe it'll have an ID that we can refer to and a link to that as well. So this is kind of like a new event payload and a posted event. So maybe I should call this new event. It's just a bundle of information. I could have it as like spread out as raw properties, but this is a little easier to read and think about to have them named and tupled up here in case classes.
I wonder a little bit, do we, at least as we sketch out here, do we need a return type here? Because isn't the workflow basically we create the webinar link, then we create the meetup event that has that webinar link, and then we're done?
True. For now, it could basically be units, but I mean, it might be interesting to, like, just for the output of, like, say we just start this as the first version is just a CLI application. It might be nice to get back. I'm sure the posted event would have like a URL to the meetups page that we could then use. So
that's a great point. Yeah, because we're going to put the webinar link, but this is going to have the actual meetup. Yeah, so I think that makes a ton of sense.
The webinar is just the events URL. Yeah. Really, that's all we mostly care about. Maybe the ID. If we want to do stuff with it later, we can add stuff to it now. But as far as we care about right now, we want to abstract the level of events that we are concerned with. Okay.
Yeah. And then I think that potentially indicates that posted event should also be returned by the Symposium service.
Potentially. But yeah, that makes sense.
Because otherwise, we're like, at least if we go with this plan of we're going to kind of not expose these directly, but just expose them through the interface, we're kind of not going to get the benefit of having this happening.
So let me actually move this into a companion object for the Meetup service, and I'll put this over here so that we can access that. Actually, I'll take the case, instead of having the case classes in the trait, we'll put it in the companion object so other people can access them. And I will import Meetup service _ so we can just refer to them as events in here.
And as we think about best practices, I think it doesn't matter in like our simple app, but for like more complex apps, we could also think about like this event could potentially exist somewhere differently, because like right now, if we have the meetup event there and then we kind of do
Oh no! I think everything.
What happened there? If we have new event down here, then we're kind of introducing a logical dependency of this Symposium interface on the meetup, which we don't necessarily want to do, right? In a way, we'd like to be able to say the interface is independent of any of these meetup services, and then it's just the live implementation of the Symposium service that's dependent on the Meetup.
Yeah,
Zoom
yeah. We
services.
basically have we translate, and we kind of talked. Well, we talked about this before, but this translation of like error types from different layers of the hierarchy, and also the translation of non-error types and result types. Right. It's a posted event in the Meetup domain here, but once we get up to the
Yeah.
Symposium service, this is a posted Symposium or whatever. So I mean, we could
Yeah,
have
so
our own.
you could almost think about maybe we take these guys and move them to more of like just being part of like the common data model here.
Oh, I see.
And then later on, we can always revisit that later because right now everything's obviously just in a file, but
Yeah.
that in a way separates the kind of definition of the interface from the implementation of it.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I think maybe if there was a world where this Meetup service was going to be used across lots of services and it wasn't just so hard coded to our Symposium
Sure.
use case, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're definitely we're maybe architecting for growing a little bit more, but
yeah, but it's safe to hard code now because we're pretty confident for the near term. And yeah, and we can always complicate things later. Okay. So, I mean, so yeah.
I think we just need the Zoom one. And so it seems like for this, we're going to need some kind of basically a date and a title.
Yeah. Maybe just hard code.
So one thing we might think about is so I guess we're not going to have the webinar URL at this point. So that kind of indicates we need like one more, like it's maybe an event request. And this is, I guess, and this is also going to have a date. So I'll have like a string, title, the description, and then a date time that's like a
zoned date time is your preferred.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if maybe that will not be picked up.
Oh, here oh wait, oops, never mind.
That's but yeah, never oops.
There we go. Nice. Okay, so you're thinking as this event request would I see that would go there. Event request, and then
that'll basically go to the.
Oops. My bad. I did undo.
Yeah, no worries. That's a nice feature. And then, like this conceptualization, this could then return back let's just say it's going to return back a task of a new event, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this. I feel like this. I mean, it doesn't terribly matter much either way because everything is so simple. But I feel like now it's almost a little like it feels like we're giving this too much that it needs, right? So like we don't need. This would have already had that information. All we really care about from the Zoom is very constrained, right? Like we could even give this something like as an alternative. Just to compare it to different potential approaches, is just like we can just give this everything it needs, right? Which is the title, maybe description, and then that zoned date time, right? And this can just get us back our URL, right? And then,
so I think that these two are isomorphic. So I think, to implement that, we could just say maybe we just need one, like what would we call this, like webinar URL?
Oh, yeah, just a nice case class. That's great. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then this can just return a webinar URL, right?
Yep. I guess the thing is, like, I like kind of the co-location of the data with the domain. Like maybe I put this in a Zoom package and have webinar URL in there. Does that make sense? Maybe if this were moved to a different file, and then this is like all in the package Zoom, and then this could go in there, and then this could obviously that the syntax isn't real, but if I wish it were. Does that actually work? Move to package Zoom. Can I move this whole thing into a different package like that? Let's see if that's possible. No, that didn't work at all. And it probably broke something. Yeah, like what are your thoughts on that? Just sort of because I feel like part of me is like it feels like the they've been disemboweled, right? And the data types are kind of sloshing over between the different traits, whereas like they're kind of at these different levels of boundedness, right? Like event request is at the level of symposium, where Zoom probably shouldn't. Like it might be convenient to pass along the same event request, but it might be conceptually cleaner to either just
so we can create separate data models for each of them. So this can take something. I mean, we could have maybe in okay, so I guess our object thing didn't work, our package thing didn't work, but yeah, so we could have like here, so maybe each of these can have their separate data models. That's kind of a separate like architectural like discussion of like kind of common versus shared ones. But yeah, so we could imagine both of these. I mean, I guess the simplest way, they each have a Zoom request and a Zoom response, and there's a Meetup request and a Meetup response.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess in this case, maybe the response just is the webinar URL at this point. Like it's hard coded to that, but yeah, very similar to that. And then we just kind of give it because that gives us the opportunity of like slightly refining it,
evolving those separately over time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So this Zoom request, we said it was going to have a name, a description. I think so. It's going to be a title. Title, description is also a string, and its date, that's its own date.
Oops.
And then this can go away. And then this will take a Zoom request.
It's good to. I love the cooperative things.
And then with the Meetup thing, we can do a similar, so I guess right now the new events, post events, and maybe we wanted to, we could say like this is a Meetup request and like a Meetup response.
Oops, sorry. Yes.
And then so now the language of these two data models is completely modular and disconnected from each other. Which I think is probably maybe not necessary for a small app like this, but I think in the vein of kind of talking about good practices, definitely allows these things to evolve more independently. And then here we can even call this a symposium request. Like a symposium request, and then we could have some new case files for like a symposium response.
That had all the data that we cared about there.
Yeah, now these things are more disconnected with each other, and it'll really be the responsibility at this point of like the symposium service to map between these two different data models as well as its own data model and kind of do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and over time we can make this more. Yeah. And I think it just helps me. I don't know. It helps me to clarify, and then it's nice because when you sort of command click on these, you jump to them in the code, and you see exactly their purpose, and then they don't show up in different places. I find, it's one of those benefits of. I feel like some people are really good at keeping lots of things in their heads that are disparate. I'm pretty bad at that. And I think
it's what special learning is about.
Yeah, exactly. I've atrophied all those parts of my brain, so it's nice to. But it kind of is a benefit too, because it forces me. Like if I don't have a nicely separated an architected domain, I can't work. So I have to have it nice and clean.
So it seems like this point, maybe the next step is to implement the symposium service, because based on the functionality exposed here, this should be very trivial, and that'll kind of let us test our implementation here a little bit, and then we can work on implementing these two.
Yeah, no, that would be great. And this actually it kind of reminds me that so this is the thing that I remember. I think John said it. I don't know if he gave the talk publicly yet, but in the Spartan session on architecture, he made the recommendation of for the non-border layers.
The inner services.
For the inner services that aren't sort of at the end of the world, to not actually express them as traits. So to not have a live versus test implementation, which makes perfect sense. Why would you have a live versus test implementation of create symposium when it really is going to delegate to lesser, lower level layers? And I think he recommended to sort of have that as a case class. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, we could always just make one implementation or something, but I did like that idea of not ever really having a non-live implementation of that.
So shall we do down here something like, these are new module patterns. So we've got our, so we'll have our meetup. We'll have our Zoom.
Yep.
And this will extend symposium.
So just to make some notes for everyone, we basically in the module pattern 2.0, we recommend that you create a case class for your service implementations, and accept as parameters of that case class its transitive dependencies, not as layers, but just as concrete parameters. And cool. There we go. All right, and now we can implement this, and we'll see why we recommend this in just a moment. Despite the fact that it's just a normal implementation, it has everything it needs there. You probably have seen this pattern in Java and other languages. You accept some class, you have parameters. Maybe you'd use juice, but there are not going to be any juice annotations here.
And so I think this is now going to be pretty straight. Well, we'll have to just do a little bit of like mapping between these different data types. But I think basically we want to call the Zoom service and get back its response, which is going to contain like this URL. And then we want to get the meetup response by calling Meetup Service, call it create event. Oops, I think we had a little keyboard issue there. And that's going to need something. And then basically we'll turn these results back into this symposium response. So yeah, all right. So you're exactly doing the pair programming thing. So you're already head on doing the Zoom request.
I just got to do a yield here so it doesn't get through to the red. Nice.
What do we make the meetup request require? Title, description, webinar URL. So that must be the request. Title, that request dot description. And then response dot URL. Okay, and then right now we don't have the symposium response containing really any information. So maybe what's that?
I guess we should decide what we care about, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit of like right now, this is kind of our main method. So like right now, we probably don't care about anything. But if we want to like maybe make this a little bit more extensible, I mean, maybe we want, so we passed it these things. So really so the new information is the webinar URL and the meetup URL, right?
Exactly.
So maybe those are two things that should be in there.
Exactly. Perfect.
And so then this can be yield symposium response. And then we did the webinars first. So that's the Zoom response.url. And then the meetup response event URL. And this is probably one area where we're like, we could maybe be a little bit like better and more strongly typed here of like have like a new type or a case class for these, of like it would be easy to mix these up with these just being strings, but
yeah, true.
More than we want to do, at least at this moment.
Yes.
So I mean, this is all. I mean, not to be too positive about ourselves, but like this is already pretty cool. Here, we basically got the logic of this service implemented here. And I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. I guess it would be slightly nicer if Scala had the syntax to do this. And
I was going to mention that.
More
Yes.
comprehension, but we can't quite do that.
Sometimes what I do, if it's not terribly performance
just do like ZIO succeed there or something.
Yeah, just wrap it in as ZIO succeeds, just so it can be nice and uniform. The compiler really should be able to handle that. I wish better.
It is unfortunate.
I don't think better.
But yeah, and I mean now it's like it's pretty clear of like there are like 4 sequential steps here of like package up the request, call the Zoom service, package up the next request, call the next service, return the result.
Yeah, and it's yeah. This is the high level. This is kind of what we I guess meant at the beginning, but this is the language of the domain. The domain involves making meetups, making webinars. That's really it, and passing the logic along from one to the other. It's very high level. Can't really go wrong here. It doesn't need to be parallelized. It can't be because there's this data dependency from the meetup request needs the Zoom response that I got previously. So there's nothing really else we can do at this level to make this shinier. So we could dig in.
Potentially we could have some type of like maybe error management here of like if this fails, we like do something. But yeah, I think that's definitely beyond the scope of the initial one. And I think the other cool thing is if we go back to like the Meetup and the Zoom services, like we've now like simplified like these 2 parts of the problem like substantially. Of like the Meetup service, like all it needs to do is it needs to take this and return this.
Yeah,
and we'll have to do a bunch of stuff with the API and HTTP and all this stuff, but like it's a lot simpler than like our original problem.
It's very calming, and the nice thing as well about it is that I've mentioned the anxiety I get when sort of designing these things and have in the past. And before I came to ZIO, there was just a lot of things tended to get messy very quickly. The very nice thing about the layer approach is that we've described these dependencies here, but we don't have to worry about that extra layer of when we architect our app sort of passing down everything correctly and having this big ugly wiring thing, because we have the magic of Z layers. And so the whole reason, one of the reasons for making this this final case class even is to come back into our Symposium companion object here and make a live implementation. So I can say live here, and all we have to do now is we can use on the apply method, which is a function, right, from these 2 things to that. If I looked at the type here, it takes a meetup and a Zoom and gets a Symposium live. I can call toLayer on this, and this will just lift this into a layer, and so it has the right type almost right away. And so I can just remove that live bit so that it actually gets widened not to the live implementation where we have knowledge about its parameters, but just the trait. So we're sort of widening and forgetting the information about the implementation there. But yeah, that's kind of all you have to do. And so you have the layer definitions generally in the companion object, and you also have the accessors, which Adam has in parallel written.
Programming.
Heck yeah. And so generally with the accessors, they just delegate to a Symposium in the environment. So live will put a Symposium in the environment given a meetup and a Zoom. Create Symposium will, given a Symposium in the environment, give you a Symposium response. And we can take a look at how we're going to sort of architect or just build the final app later, but it's going to be quite trivial. The machinery of ZLayer will handle most of the complication for us.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about this is it'll make it really easy to integrate this with anything else we want to do. So like we can imagine we have like our main method down here. You might have like, we might decide the way we want to do this is like some simple command line thing that's like, enter the description of your meeting, enter its title, enter like the date you want, and like that could just like then call this service, or we can do whatever we want with it, but it provides kind of really easy like interface to call this now.
Yep. Yeah, it would be nice. Maybe that reminds me that I think ZIO CLI needs a little bit of polishing too, and then we could use that as interface.
Exactly. I was thinking like, okay, name and description, straightforward, local date time or zone date time. We may need something a little fancier to put that in and make sure we're accurate there.
That's true. I do have that that giant pointless terminal user interface library that could be adapted, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing is in terms of cleanliness, I think I'm going to move out of this. So one thing with IntelliJ, I have
the separate files. Ooh,
yeah,
and use IntelliJ magic. Nice.
Yeah, there's just a little command that I can just move this. So I'll move this to. I guess I don't even have a package yet, so I'll put Symposium inside of Symposium, and it'll prompt me to create the package, and hopefully it does this correctly. It should move the trait. Yeah, it did. It moved the trait. It did not move Symposium Live, but that's okay. I will carry this over there manually.
Yeah, and maybe arguably that should be its own module, depending on, I mean, it doesn't matter here, but like you could imagine this is a big service or big application. We have those separate.
Exactly. And before I fill in these little guys here, I'm going to actually move these as well, so everything can know where everything else exists. So let's move Zoom to a Zoom package. So this should move everything there. Oh, no, do refactor, it's okay. Lovely. And that pretty much worked. Oh, except it prompted me to, oh, a cat played some dance music in the background, which happens all the time. Okay, so we have zone daytime there. And then in this, I'll take Meetup and hit that little button and move this into Meetup. So everything is now nicely organized and everything feels clean and wonderful. And I can delete these notes and daytime, and there we go. So yeah, everything is now parsed out into its own packages. Very, very lovely. And so yeah, now we could, well, let me get this to compile. Now I can import, what do I need to import here? Meetup.meetup, and I need to import zoom.zoom. Come on, IntelliJ, you can figure it out. There we go. Okay, now that's compiling. Let me just hit the compile button and make sure that everything is happy. I think it is, unless we have some unimplemented things. Cool. Nice. All right, so, well, now we can tackle one of these services, or both of them in parallel, or whatever. But maybe we should just focus on one to start with, so we can sort of walk through
it. That makes sense.
Another nice thing is now that we have these in packages, I can move Meetup response and Meetup request out to the top level, and they can sort of eventually exist as separate files, and then we don't need to do that. So another thing that I'm going to just do with Zoom as well. Cleans that up a little bit. And Symposium too. We had our responses and requests in there, which we did not need to throw them in the bottom for now. And now our companion object looks nice and canonical with just the accessors and layer definitions, and we don't need to import that stuff. So all good. So yeah, Meetup first. I think Meetup looked like it had a slightly nicer API, but I can't really tell.
Okay.
It's hard to say. So I was thinking, well, this is kind of one of these base level services, so we'll probably rely on. Generally, I use STTP. I've enjoyed STTP. It has it is a ZIO layer that's pretty solid and a good little API. Do you have any preferences for HTTP clients, or is that?
I'm happy to defer to you on that one.
Okay, cool. I've used STTP a lot, so I think it's all right. I will then add it to the build file. So let me see how to do this. I'm going to go to. It would be great if there were a better tool, but the ZIO HTTP have a client. Oh, I think ZIO HTTP does have a client yet, but I have not used it yet, and I think that's still maybe a little more under construction. But I'm pretty sure they did actually, build one. So Maven HTTP. Also, Ash, offers open if you want to also type with us and make it chaos. It's actually client 3, yeah. It's not hard to find things on Maven sometimes. All right, I think it's 3.3.6 is the newest version then. I'm going to grab this, but that's not the only thing I need. I also need the ZIO backend, which I think I can get from STTP. It's a little hard to. Okay, let's see. ZIO. There we go. Async HTTP client backend ZIO. Wunderbar. Grabbing this, slightly blinded by the white background of the page. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to rebuild with these dependencies, and it's done in the meanwhile. Nice. Oh, it's making the accessor, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then just release a stub for our live service here.
Nice. And I think, interesting. I'm seeing, why am I seeing an issue here? Is this not the same? For some reason this looks red to me, but I'll recompile. That might be crazy.
Which stuff is red?
For some reason this is, I don't know why. What does it say? Method create event needs an override modifier, does it?
Oh, it's just because we have the question mark here. It should be like that.
Oh, I see. I gotcha.
Yeah. Let me just check on Symposium.
Yeah, I think that's all good.
There and Zoom. Yeah, Zoom, we had the same thing. So we were just playing with it. So, okay.
And it looks like, okay, and also this is just, oh, this would be has meetup. Yeah, there we go. Has
meetup. Yeah.
Got another little red there. Yeah, and this is nice. So before in the other object, we kind of just did like this, right? We just put the live here. But if you do have like a really large layer that it maybe has some logic in its instantiation, I tend to like having in the companion object of that implementation a layer property, which then I can just call from the meetups live, meetup live dot layer. So the companion sort of, this is all just, none of it is science at all. This is just random opinions. But I find it nice if there's a lot of non-trivial logic in the layer construction, or if it's in another package, obviously would have to then just put it as layer in the implementation. And then it's also nice if you can, if it is not in like a different package and you can do this, it's nice to have just in the companion object live method and then a test method. So you can just always know where to look for your layers. You just type meetup.live. But if you have like a bunch of packages that are separated and for some reason the trait is in a different package than the implementation, then you probably, due to dependencies, can't like have a cyclic one. So on the companion object, just have a val layer, right? Because there's only going to be, it is already an implementation. So you're not going to have a live and test version of an implementation. Anyway, just some random thoughts. Okay, cool. So now I've imported STTPs. So this can work by doing sttp.client3._.
What happened to clients 1 and 2?
We don't talk about this. They've been deleted. They've been put out to pasture.
Like the program's fleeing to the Matrix in the third movie?
Exactly. Okay, what am I doing? Yes. All right, so now we actually have to do the work. So it's funny because you can do all this work that's not actually the real work.
Not actually doing anything.
But it feels good. It's nice and everything is clean. We know exactly where to do it. We need to do it, whatever we're going to do in here. And what we're going to depend on is an STTP backend. And I'm actually going to take a look at the sttp.client.backend. I'm going to actually just use IntelliJ's magical search function to find the ZIO HTTP backend, or the backend ZIO, async ZIO. There's so many weird. Oh, there we go. Found it. Async HTTP client ZIO backend. That's because this has a layer method, and so I can see what type are you, because that is the it's an STTP client. Ah, great. They have a type alias. So that means this needs to depend on an STTP. Oh yes, and I actually made this request myself to follow the old pattern.
So it's service.
Yeah. It's .service, which is actually an alias.
We're in like a slightly more complicated state right now, where like not everything is fully consistent.
Yeah, but generally this would be like a has of this, and we're going to remove that. Should just be a trait or a type alias or something. Okay.
And the other thing that's really nice here is you can see how like that immediately like flows through of like I change it there, and then I have to change it there, and we're getting a lot of help from the compiler here.
Yeah, actually that one needs to be a has as well, but I can just regenerate it and it just works automatically. Why does it say has service? Because it's an STTP client.
STTP client.service.
Yeah, I don't like quite the. I tried, but no. Okay, so I'll just import basically all of ZIO and STTP. Okay, cool. So now we can make a request. Who knows what that's going to look like? But there's this thing called a basic request, and then we can make a .post request probably to some URI. So this will be sort of the new event URL will be a URI something, https://meetup.com/events, whatever. I'll find out what this is and copy paste it in a minute. But we're going to post that new event URL. And this takes some kind of body. which can be a string, a byte buffer, an array, a map from string to string. Basically, it's going to be the JSON payload. I think it'll automatically JSONify it for us if we specify that it is JSON. Otherwise, it can post all sorts of bodies. Not entirely sure what yet. What? Something. But then this is just a request. We need to send it, and that's what the whole service here is for. So we call send on this. And then we're going to get back a result, some kind of response, which is going to be an either of string string. If we want to be hacky, there's a quick request, which I think will just blow up if the whole point of the either is maybe it's, I don't know, 404. I forget exactly why there's an either there.
Yeah, it's interesting because there it seems like you have two failure modes. You have like the task failure mode and the either failure mode. Whenever you have two failure modes, like sometimes it makes sense for some reason, but like you really got to think about it.
Yeah. It actually would be an interesting thing to sort of, because I've done this a bunch before in the past, and it just sort of show the good ZIO way of separating out and lifting all the error types and parsing them in the right order to make sure that you've handled everything. Yeah, it's probably good to be real about this, even though I could just hack it away, but that wouldn't be as educational. So this is going to get us a task back. Okay, great. Except of a response of something. So we can map over this. Or rather, maybe we could use for comprehension at this point. It sort of depends. Not everything is amenable to a for comprehension.
A surprising number of things are.
Sorry?
Surprising number of things are.
Yes. So it's kind of one of the reasons when I don't like to use for comprehensions, or when like we need to then create another nested. So now here we have a body that's an either. So one thing we could do is do like ZIO dot from either, right? And that works. And so that will take the left-hand side and lift that into the error. However, that is going to be an either of a string where this was a throwable. So those don't quite coincide. And I actually don't know why it's happy with that. It might actually be unhappy with that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where we might want to map that error. Yeah, so now it's saying it's any string, but it should be any throwable, so it's confused because string is not a throwable. We can make it throwable, actually, by taking this and just making ourselves a new error for now. Oopsie daisy. And then taking whatever that string was and throwing it in there. I don't know what that string means. It would be nice if that were typed somehow, but it's just it probably says... Oh, it's kind of weird because the error type is actually encoded in this thing. So a basic request, a starting request with the following modification comparing to an empty request. Except encoding is set. Okay, wait. Reads the body as an either string string. Where left is using the status code. If the status code is non-2xx. Okay. Technically, the status code's a number. I think. Maybe I'm crazy about the HTTP spec. It would be nice if that were sort of a more concrete data type. But it's not. So it's a little confusing now, right? So it's either a string string. Like, what is the left-hand side? I was confused. Okay, it's a status code. That makes sense. That's kind of what I thought. So this is like a failing status code. We don't have to worry about that right now. And actually, is this unhappy? Is this still not a... Oh, I have to do map error. My bad. What's done right there. Now if I do map error, it should lift the error correctly. Okay, and the only problem now is that this is IntelliJ is still confused. That happens sometimes. But we're not returning a meetup response, obviously. So we're going to need to, from the success now, because if it fails, we're just going to blow up with that failing status code. But if we get the payload, or whatever that is, then we need to parse this into a meetup request. And I don't really know exactly what that even means. But one thing we could do, which is fun, response. I can make myself a little method here called Parse Payload. And this is using the magic of IntelliJ. So I've written a function that I wish existed out of thin air, and then I can hit this Alt-Enter keyword, and it'll prompt me to create the method. And it will do that for me, which is nice. It didn't quite infer the result type, but I want this to basically be a task of a meetup response. So if we implement this, now we're sort of progressively constraining what we need to implement.
Problem is now dramatically simpler.
Dramatically simpler. And because, computers have a lot of buttons on them, and a lot of different, floppy disks can go in different places, and it's nice to sort of limit things and drill down and sort of gradually realize reality. So now it's the time, I think, procrastinated long enough where I actually have to look at the API structure. So I'm going to blind myself.
Yeah, I think probably that, and maybe some print lines on this payload.
Absolutely. That's a great first step as well. And also, I need to get the API key. So there's a few annoying things that you kind of just need to do. So it looks like, yeah, the API isn't ideal.
Right.
So I'm going to see that, yeah. So it is HTTPS. So everything starts with https.api.meetup.com. And then it looks like some kind of, yeah, /URL name /events. That was a...
You got some kind of award. What did you win this time?
We won a new subscriber. Thank you,
awesome.
Someone who's new, I believe. I don't know which the order is. Yes. Oh, it's Ash. Ash,
Yay!
You're following us. Oh, I'm flattered. Let's see. It's very confusing. I don't know what a URL name is, so I hope they explain this. But apparently the path is URL name /events. What is URL name? URL name. A valid path parameter for URL name is required. Well, that would be great, wouldn't it? But what is that? It's just not. It seemed to explain what URL name is. But it needs to be a valid path parameter. Alpha. Oh, maybe it's like the it's probably like ZIO whatever. It's probably our organization, which can be interesting. Then we can sort of eventually use ZIO configure something. So it's definitely going to be val org. I'll just call it ZIO meetups. I don't know exactly what the org is. And then /events. Yeah, so that's all we need to do. And then for parameters, there are a bunch. Okay. But many of these are not important. So this is where we can actually sort of make a, we could probably just make a meetup payload that is specifically, or meetup event post request, which this could be like, we could turn this into JSON basically, or into a, I'm not even sure what this accepts. Would this accept as properties? Let me see. I'm not sure if this is JSON requests. Okay, responses are JSON. I'm not sure what requests have to be. Okay. It looks like it actually uses query parameters, which is fine. Instead of a JSON post, some APIs involve let you write, the query parameters. Some involve JSON and let you switch between them. But so far in the example, it seems to be. So we probably don't need all of these. There's description, duration. Okay. Let me just kind of write these down. So description is a string. Duration is going to be, I guess, a number of hours. In milliseconds. Wow.
That divided by 3 or that divided by 2?
In millis. Duration millis. I could just do like a ZIO duration, and we can turn that later into whatever. That would be nice. ZIO.duration. Duration. Not spell. Okay, there we go. Okay, in millis. This needs to be converted into milliseconds eventually. Event hosts. So member IDs, the defaults. Okay, I don't think we need to do that. We could do that eventually. So whatever. This would be great, sort of, to hosts. I'm just going to make little API comments about this. Events, hosts, which we will not use right now, but we could in the future. Featured photo ID, when undefined, or ZIO, no photo set. Okay, it would be nice to use a photo, I guess, but we just will not worry about that. And I'm also going to post the little URL here, so that can be future reference when I inevitably forget all this stuff. Maybe no, there's no fee. I think that's optional. There's definitely no fee. Guest limits. Oh, this is interesting. Positive represents the number of guests. Oh, that's sort of random. Okay, how to find us. This is the event's URL. So how to find us. How to find us. This is the event's URL. the event URL. Okay. Very exciting. And what else do we need? I guess, so besides the description, okay, and oh yes, we have the option to declare whether or not we want to announce this, which we can sort of default to false. And that'll be nice. So then later on, we could make this whenever and then finally publish it when we're ready at the ideal time and later figure out how to auto-publish at the right times or whatever. Should publish to Meetup members, yeah. Okay, guest limit, lat long name. Oh, is this? I wonder if this little highlight means if it's required. It's really, this API docs are pretty terrible, which is, but you know, there's worse as well. So, okay, it needs a name, obviously.
No API docs?
Yes, exactly. No API docs is slightly worse than this. Name, description, duration, how to find us. I think these are all necessary. Duration? No? Is that? Oh, it defaults to, okay, these all have defaults. I'm guessing, yeah, description probably defaults to nothing, but I'm pretty sure that's, okay. String indicates whether an event will be published to the group as a draft or visible only to, or as it published to the group or as a draft. Oh, okay, well, it's nice to have this as, I guess, publish status string. And this is going to be either draft or published. Yes, draft or published. This defaults to published. Okay, so we don't want that. All right, and I think that's it. Huh. Oh, there's the time. Duh.
Important.
The actual time, which will be a positive long representing the time in milliseconds since the epoch. The epoch. So great. I will do, I guess.
I think you can do like zone date times up to epoch milli. Let's see.
Yeah. I guess I'll have a long in there for now. And maybe I should also not do duration then. Anyway, this is all very good and well. And obviously, maybe we want this to be customizable in the meetup requests eventually. But for now, we can hard code a lot of these values because we know that we want our, oh, nice. Got some stuff down there. Awesome. We want some stuff below. It would be good to also install ourselves some ZIO JSON because we're definitely going to need some JSON. So let's bring in all the friends. I think it's ZIO15, if I'm not crazy, and I will blind myself again to find out. Maven ZIO JSON.
Ooh, do we get someone else?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Are they affiliated with ZIO JSON?
Maybe, yes, they like the ZIO JSON mention. Yes, it's Sam Halliday. No, it is, it's Alejandro. Hello, Alejandro. Greetings. Thank you for joining us. Oh, no worries, Ash. By the way, I just saw your message. Be as MIA as you need, and no, it's glad to have you here, though. Got to pair again sometime. Want to add some more tests, or help out in any way with ZioFlow. That'll be really fun. Also, yeah, welcome Alejandro. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will try to remember to look at, put that more in my peripheral vision. Okay, so right now we're trying to make a meetup request. We have ourselves a little case class here. I'm still not sure actually how the post is intended to be sent. Not sure if this is supposed to be in, the API is a core of methods in a common request format. Okay, so the common request format is definitely args. Yeah. Okay, definitely just query parameters. It also must be authenticated, so I need to figure out how to get a token and put that in there and all that stuff. I wonder if I have one. I'm not sure. I'll have to go off screen if I do for that. Anyway, so the next thing then is to take this and put this as query parameters. So I'm not sure if we do. It's definitely post, right? Let me double check here. Definitely post, but I'm pretty sure still, nonetheless, there actually won't be a body because unless their API docs are very confusing, and body. Yeah, I don't see any kind of request. Wish they had some examples. Do they have examples anywhere? A lot of it's going to be a huge response. This goes like down the page. Is this all for this one thing? Yeah, wow, it's a lot. All parameters are optional. What? Oh, it's different. That's group events. Okay. Request parameters. All right. Anyway, OAuth should request the event management OAuth scope. Okay, so we'll need also a certain OAuth scope as well. That's good to know. But I need to figure out how to add query parameters. So parameters, query? Not entirely sure. I'm sure it's possible. Maybe the body. The body.
Those API docs. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's strange. I would expect that to just sort of exist as a top level thing. HTTP query parameters.
I think there's maybe some params map.
Okay. Params map. Would that just be a top level kind of thing, or a...
I'm not sure. I'm trying.
Oh, you know what? I think it's kind of funky where you like interpolate them. You interpolate them directly into the...
Oh, yeah, the CRI interpolator. Yeah.
Which is cool, but also...
Yeah.
Not very discoverable. Very clever, but it would be very nice if that were just an extension method or something. Maybe it can't be on the request. I don't know. I think it could be. Can I do with query? Add query segments? Okay, so the question is, can I... So I have this. Can I make a new URI out of an already existing URI? I think I can. I can interpolate this. And then do, what was their example? Is there a question mark? No, they just put it there at the end. So if I could have some params, so here I can have a function called toParams, where this can basically just become a map from string to string, which is what they want. And it would be great if this already existed as something, but this is totally fine. I'll just do this manually, where I'll just delete each of these lines. Snake caseify these. And then wrap them all in strings. And then add some arrows to other strings, which are all empty right now. Oh, and commas. Okay, so getting closer. So the parameters would basically, yeah, so let me break this apart. We're going to want a post request, which is going to be this event post request, and we can translate the meetup request into this. So the request has a description, which can be the description. Let me actually do something that I like to do is this. It's very nice. So announce, I do not want to announce it. The name
might also be a nice thing for the constructor of this type.
Oh, just to take this, take the meetup request.
Right, so then we like pull all this logic out of here, and like the create event can be nice and simple. And this,
absolutely. And here we're going to want some default values. I'm not sure. So, I think we usually do 2.hours or 2 hours. Even though it's usually only 1.5 hours, I could change that. Import ZIO.duration.all. Oops. Yeah, maybe I'll do. Well, I can't do. I have to do 90 minutes. 90 minutes. I think it's pretty safe to do. The time, that's going to be the. Let me make this as well a zoned date time, and then we could worry about the translation inside of here. I think that's nicer. So we can just take our request dot date or time. I forget dot time. Dot date time. I forget what it is. Dot. Oh wait, there is no. Oh yes. So there's no. Currently, we don't have a date in here. Maybe we could add one.
Isn't it in the
Not in the meetup request.
Right. Okay, so that was an issue on our modeling.
So in datetime. So it's quite simple. Just add it. And now we have it. Nice. How to find us. And this is going to be, I believe, the request.webinar URL. And the publish status, this is a tuple, but for now I'll just do draft. So that, okay. And now I can basically take, we were saying this, and move this into here.
Yeah, I'm just going back on the other file.
Gotcha. And then so our params here, val params, is going to be equal to this host. We're going to from meetup request, and then call two params. So there we go. Nice. Everything is now nice and simple here because it's in this. And this data type should probably be moved to some, like this is, now it's getting to the point where maybe the Meetup Live module deserves its own package because it has all of these kind of
its own dependencies now.
And its own dependencies. It has its own data types that are bespoke to only, like, if we had a test implementation, we're not going to make, this. We're not going to make these ugly params. We don't really care. Yeah. This only exists for the purposes of the actual API. So, we'll keep it here for now. Maybe I'll.
Well, even this, where we can simplify. We can like pull out this that post request into its own file and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Make this a little bit cleaner.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, if there was like a meetup.live, we could, or yeah. Oh, I think we want to keep the.
Yeah, sorry, I was
stealing too much. Nice.
Yep.
And now he stole the post request and is off to the woods. It's pretty cool to have that, and I can nice. LJ should find it in just a second. I can import it. There it goes. Yay! So cool. Love that parent stuff. All right, so now it's very simple. We take the params, we interpret the params from the request, and we translate that there. So, nice. Ooh, did you make another file? I see.
Yeah.
Gonna steal Meetup Live. I see. Take it away. Goodbye, Meetup Live. Meanwhile, we have everything we need except for. Ooh.
No, we're done grabbing in place here. Oops.
What is this sad? Move to default package. No, package meetup. There we go. Okay, and I stole away meetup request. I will also steal meetup response. There we go. That's weird. Package meetup. All right, there we go. No, lovely.
All right, we got everything.
Everything is nice and organized. Now we can clean this up immensely, and yes, so way easier to think about. Meetup is incredibly simple, and it sort of reveals the simplicity of this. And mostly of the logic is going to be here in this Meetup Live layer. Okay, so, but now we still need the parsing bit, and this is where we can use import ZIO.json. And basically, we want to take our payload and call from JSON, and pass in meetup response. And then this is going to return us an either. So we can call ZIO.fromEither. And for now, we can just, obviously we're going to have to map the error because it's just a string again. And I will take this string error and just make a new error string and just, do something like JSON parse error. We can give these better names later on for sure. Definitely easy, low-hanging fruit there is to make a nicer error model for ourselves. And another problem is that this does not have a codec. So we can go over to ZIO meetup response, make a companion object, make an implicit val codec, and say derive JSON codec rather, and do gen meetup response. So this will give us a
easy ones to derive.
Yeah. Exactly. And of course, the real thing is that I have no idea. I did not look at what that's the next thing to do is what the actual API is. that we get, sorry, the actual shape of the payload that we receive. So
Right.
there's a bunch of information here. I guess, can I copy this table in any reasonable way? Oof, no, I cannot. This is terrible. Created. I don't care about any of this. Most of the information, the only thing I really want is like the URL, the ID, some kind of validation that it actually happened. So, okay, I'll take the ID, which is probably, I don't know what it is. But I want to find the actual URL. So, oh, the link string. So these are really the only things I care about currently. Really just the link even, but I'll also take the ID just to make sure it like worked. So this should be able to just parse it. And so what I'd like to do next is actually run Meetup Live and actually hit this. And we could make a test. Perhaps that's a good idea. I also kind of just like making a. Maybe we should make a test. I'm not sure. And in fact, maybe that would be better because then we just keep it over time. So yeah, let me do that. So another cool thing you can do in IntelliJ is if you go over to like an object or a trait. So I'm at the Meetup object. I'm actually going to force you to follow me for a moment, so because I'm going to jump through a few files. So if I hit Command-Shift-T, there's this option to create a new test, and it will just sort of make one for me. I'll say Meetup spec, and I can have it create a default runnable spec, which is kind of the thing we want here.
That's nice.
And it'll create it for us in the corresponding test directory under the same package name. Super nice. And all I have to do then is just implement the methods here. Internal reminder myself to lift test environment into test, so it doesn't do that. And actually, I'll just leave it like this. Okay, and now we can make a suite for Meetup spec. Sometimes I just make a companion object to test it, but this is like, since we're making a real code base, and I'd like to keep these tests around, and this is sort of, I guess, partly intended to be open source now, and as a relative exemplary code base, I'll be good and make a real test. Okay, but it's going to be very simple. We're going to go to a test M where it just, successfully creates events. Don't entirely know what that means yet. Probably going to have some kind of for comprehension. So we're going to probably yield something. And then we're probably going to call our meetup dot create event. It's so nice because Adam created our accessor for us. And so it's right there waiting for us. And now we need to create a meetup request. And this is going to take a title. So Symposium, we can prepare for Symposium 11. And then what else do we need? We need a description, the best one yet. And lastly, a webinar URL. Yes, because this would have been created for us previously. Zoom.com, and then a zone date time, which I'm actually not sure what that's going to be yet. I'm going to actually plug this out, pull this up here.
I think you could do like zone daytime of, I want to say.
How to do that? Oh, oops, sorry. Sometimes the thing cancels itself on me. Oops, I've created a nightmare. What have I done? Okay, I want to pull out meetup request. Come on, request, enter. There we go. Oh, nice. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, there's some options there. Of local taint. Nice. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is like annoying, but
Local daytime of local date. Oh wow.
right. Right. So I think we do like basically this is the date part.
Oh wow, that's hilarious. Okay.
I mean, maybe there's some.
I'm sure there's some like higher level thing that you get to parse it or whatever, but this is totally fun. Let me go to. I'm going to try to find meanwhile a way to actually get an authentication thing. So before you use OAuth, you need to register a new OAuth consumer. Okay. So yeah, I'm just reading through their website to figure out how to make a authenticated request.
What's up?
I'm just trying to see the best way to do this. Requesting authorization, redirect your user. No, I don't want to do that. I just want like a token. I think this might only be available to Meetup Pro users, which maybe we are. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe we should run into it. Maybe we can do something where it's not a webinar.
Oh, this is for the Meetup stuff. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna see. I'm sure there's some way to get something. Even though Meetups, I was a little suspicious because once you go into Meetup sort of back end portal, it becomes very horrifying and weird and like this is a totally different API. Probably should definitely hide my screen at some point, but organizer subscription. Okay, I don't have a subscription. I'm like the co-host of stuff. I can make a fake one for this. Is it expensive? What is this? It would be great to actually hit this. So, yeah, I don't live there, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. This is all fake. Conscientiousness, and of course, horror films, and sewing is going to be my group. And San Francisco conscientiousness, horror, sewing. Please write at least 50 characters. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This looks great. Here's an example. Thank you. Welcome, tech lovers far and wide. We are in an online and in-person tech and sewing, horror, mindfulness enthusiast group hosting live, hosting dead speaking events on. Cool. Nice. Awesome. Creating it. Should provide growth opportunities for our members. Okay. Be transparent about the group's intentions. Ooh. All right. Do I wish to pay $12? I might sink $12 into this experiment right now.
That's the dedication we have to our. How many viewers now?
3. If we split it between all 5 of us.
Each of you are worth at least $4 to us.
I get the best value though if I sign up for 6 months. And maybe this conscientiousness horror sewing group could really take off. Name on card, awesome. So I'm going to use the Be Right Back feature as I enter my credit card information into this portal. Boom. Even though, okay, that's totally, definitely, all right, I should have double checked. Put in my stuff. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Ash is encouraging me to continue to share. I know, it's selfish of me.
Oh, you're being a bad influence, Ash.
Okay, I will confirm. This better make me a pro user that I can like post events with. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. Nice. Okay. All right, my group is in review. Happens within 24 hours. Well, I better be able to like at least create draft stuff. I am horror man. I am person. Nice. I'll just try to be. What would you like to say to new members? I will say boo. Right. Okay, I think I'm safe to reshare now. Sorry for the radio silence. And we're back. Okay, so I've got this San Francisco consciousness horror sewing meetup group. Please join me. I will send this to Witch. Ooh, I didn't realize Twitch has the word witch in it. I don't know. How do I go to my own channel? What is this? Get me away. No, I don't want to watch other people's things. No, not short. Whatever that is, go away. And I don't want to hear myself either. Whew. Wait. Oh, that was confusing. There we go. So everyone can join my meetup group if you'd like, even though it's not public. So, oops. Okay, totally. I can manage this group. All right. How do I get API keys now, please? That better have been possible. That better be possible. Okay, I'll go back to settings. Edit group settings, maybe? Organizer subscription. Nice. That doesn't look like it's anything I need. Apps. Meetup API. Optional features? Okay, API, how do I do this? Okay. To use this flow when you want to write a program that uses Meetup API using your own user credentials, that would be great. I certainly don't want to go through the whole flow. Do I have to go through the URL? I don't want to do that. That doesn't even make sense. You should be able to get like a token. But sounds like refreshing your access token. How do I get my key? Okay. Oh, Oauth. This could be worse than there could be no standard, but I wish the standard were easier. Requesting, make authentication. So I have to do this? How do I even get my key and stuff? You need to register a new OAuth consumer. Okay. Maybe there's another way of doing this. Authenticating requests. No, I think everything needs to be an authenticated request. All right, yeah. There's no evading it. We require HTTPS. Okay. Oh, I can do it right here. Nice. You must be a Meetup Pro subscriber. Yeah, all right, that's me. Consumer, that will be displayed to users requesting authorization. Zimpository, I guess I called it. Application website, a link to your applications. I will do https://www.zio.dev. Redirect URI. No. I don't have one of these. Oh, of course. There's no way to just get a token, is there? This is very sad. But what if I want to just use the API myself? Why? How do I do this? There has to be a better way. This is the boring part of web development, is just permission scopes. And then GitHub's great because they let you have like a personal access token, which maybe isn't perfect for real world applications, but I didn't want to have to go through the entire OAuth flow. Yeah, why OAuth? Console? So I can try stuff, do stuff directly in here, but it's clearly mediated through their stuff. Okay. All right, back to the form. It's the same thing, right? Yeah. Okay. Where'd it go? I had a form. Did it clear itself? There it goes. There we are. All right, so a redirect URI. A base URL that will enable your application to use OAuth 2 authorization. So I do not currently have one of these, so I'm also going to use ZIO, but we're going to basically have to use ngrok in order to do that, I believe. Perhaps there's a hackier way of doing this. I don't know. I want to use it for a personal project. Other. Full description of use case. For review, no! I would like to automate the creation of my events in order to save time and exemplify best practices. No, in order to save time and enjoy more of life. Contact name, Kit Langton. Contact email, my email address. Yes, I agree to everything. Research for educational, exploring API for educational purposes. Building a tool for my meetup group. There we go. And if you do that, you don't really want to care about the OAuth flow, do you? You better. Sorry, there was a problem. What are you talking about? Name. Oh, of your group or your personal name? Kit Langton? Missed that? Pending. Nice. Ooh. Where's my secret? I don't see a secret. I don't even have a secret. Did you send me a secret? Do I have an email with a secret? I'll check it on my other device. Do I have a secret? A secret? No. No, I do not. I have no secrets. I have medical bills. Boring. Well, this is intoxicating. Well, I have this thing, but nothing else useful. I'm assuming this will become populated at some point once this has been.
Want to make sure you want to do legitimate things with your.
It's so silly. I mean, I could. Clearly, there's a way to do some stuff. So, yeah. Groups, URL name. Well, this is hitting.
Oh, this is kind of a nice tool.
Yeah, right. I mean, sorta. I've seen better, but this is nice. I don't know what. Yes, so I could check to see what it's doing here. I mean, it's probably just hitting. It already knows I'm authenticated through them. What are you sending out? Opening up the network panel. Maybe they're not that safe though. Who knows? What are they doing? Where's my requests? Do it by time. Sort by time. Other way. Where is this happening? TR, is that you? Quite complicated. Show response, show response, show response. API response, console, API response. Seems to be like random. What? These TR things? Status. So there we go. Duh.
Oops. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, anyway, it looks like there might be a bit of a dead end on this front just because, yeah, there's like a CSRF token and stuff like that. It's clearly I'm just being authenticated through their app, and so they're bypassing whatever they need to bypass. So it looks like we might need to wait until some further day to follow up with the terrible API.
I think we made pretty good progress for today, so I don't think that's
yeah, no, we got the stubs.
Really a bad thing.
We've got the stubs. The stubs are here. Yeah. I guess the last thing to do in our stub, pretending that this works, is, well, clearly it reveals a couple things, which is that right now Meetup event has no configuration at all for like the user group or whatever. But the interesting thing is, instead of adding that to the request, what we could do is have that to the layer. So right now this is actually blowing up because we have no layer. But instead what we could do is we could say, I will use ZIO. Actually, I don't have ZIO.magic. That's fine. I'll just do provide layer. And this will just be meetup.live. Oh, and this needs its own sort of dependency on the ZIO async HTTP backend client.layer. There we go. Oh, and then I need to actually plug that in. It's not the magic version. And this is I think this might actually also potentially die. So I'll kill it or die. Oh, is it not quite happy? Okay, this is actually where I will involve ZIO magic. I've become totally unable to do it in other ways. I think it's 3.4. I should know my own version numbers. But let's see. ZIO magic, what version are you? 3.3. Oops. There we go. Oh, it's not dev.zio. It's io.github.myname. Okay, there we go. But anyway, the point is that maybe in this layer construction, we can sort of depend on what the organization is, what the credentials are, and accept that here, or potentially depend on ZIO config. Could have that in there somewhere. We can use ZIO config to read our API key inevitably from some kind of file or a token from some kind of file. as meetup. So why is this sad? So yeah, I will do inject. I will import magic, which is there now. And now I can.
This, right?
Oh, totally, just commas now. Yep. And I will see why this is sad. Oops. Come to me.
Oh, don't we have an extra like comma here? We want to be really like.
Oops. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And oh yeah, and okay, one huge problem is that this is not actually asserting anything. So we can sort of just do results. Then we could use the new assert true macro
Yeah.
to say what?
Who might have been involved in that?
Result.id. I'll just say non-empty for now, which is fine. And this definitely, I think, so sometimes I think this can die. This one can throw, so I could do this one. There we go. Separate this out into other layers, and now it seems to be happy. Yeah. And I can run this.
After the layer are kind of weird.
Oh, zone daytime needs to be. Sorry, what?
Just in the STTP thing, the STTP.layer with the parentheses is a bit weird.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, we need import ZIO.duration.off.
Yeah, in this other file. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might see different errors. I'm not sure exactly what shows up for you. Oh, and then meetup response.event URL does not exist. Meetup response.
It's just URL. Link? Is that
that link. Yeah, that's what they called it there. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oops. And then, okay, so now I think we're all good with errors. I know it will not work, but it'll blow up, and it'll probably...
It will blow up spectacularly.
Yes, it'll blow up very much blow up.
We have progressed to a runtime failure.
Exactly. Amazing. So it's going to be the implementation's missing. Which one is that? Oh, I had question marks here. So this needs to be the zone. Oh, did you figure something out in your zone daytime experiments? Oh, nice.
I just create a helper method. I mean, it still has a billion things, but at least it's just one parameter list.
2021. The month will be the month of 7. The day of 3, the hour of 8, the minute of 37, and the time zone of
PDT.
PDT. There we go. Nice. Well, obviously that will need to be refined.
Go strong types.
But this is good for a first sketch, and now we've failed for a hopefully different reason. Yeah, unknown time zone PDT. I think it's like US LA or whatever.
Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, let me see. Maybe there's some way to like print out system time. Let's see.
It's really someone should wrap zone. You know what? I might do. I can't even do now. No, I can't do now. For now. I'm just going to do now. So we will schedule the meeting for this very moment, especially as this is just a test, but we'll figure out,
Yeah, you can also maybe just use like UTC there. Okay, let's see what we got.
So now now failing status code. Okay, I forgot to print out what that failing status code is. Or no, I didn't. It seems to be an empty string, so that's definitely odd to me that it wouldn't even have a status code, but...
Is that because we're not like authenticated?
Oh, you know what? I think it's because it's not even a real... Yeah, I don't know. Totally ignored it. Maybe it's not even a real URL or URI, so it could just be a total explosion. But yeah, cool. Well, that's expected. So the next step would be to get authenticated and to... I mean, potentially we could do the Zoom one separately at another date. But I think that was good organization, good progress.
Go declaring partial victory.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. We got a lot done.
This is really cool.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining me on that journey, Adam. I'm sure we can.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, totally. And I'll see you bright and early tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the Real Symposium.
Already.
That we've made manually, and that we have to now manually add the link to. Hopefully, we can remind someone to do that. But thanks everybody on the internet. I will end the. Thanks for stopping by, Ash. I don't know if you're still there, but it's good to have you here in spirit, and everyone else. And yeah, we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Peace all.